So the question arises, are there situations in which we cannot trace experience back to brain activity? And the answer is yes. There are multiple circumstances in which this has been shown. Famously, psychedelics can cause unfathomable experiences, incredibly rich and intense, the most intense of one's life. And all they do to your brain is reduce brain activity. They don't increase brain activity anywhere. They just reduce brain activity. Yes, there's a little more functional connectivity, but it's a very small effect. There is a small increase in entropy, but it's a very, very, very tiny effect, and it's not always there. So now you break the correlation right there. And it's not only psychedelics. Breath work, when you hyperventilate, what you do is you increase the alkalinity level of your blood because of extra oxygen. And alkalinity in the blood is toxic to brain tissue. So your brain capillaries will constrict to prevent alkaline blood from getting to your brain. That's why people pass out if they breathe too fast, if they hyperventilate. But when people do hyperventilate and they pass out, you would think they are unconscious. And no, they are tripping out of their heads. They have unfathomable experiences. Pilots undergoing G-force training, when they go through G-lock, when blood is drained out of their brain because of acceleration, centrifugal acceleration, they go unresponsive, but when they come around, they report, quote, memorable dreams. We've known this since 1990. There are more examples. There are trance states in which people manage to go into a trance and write extremely complex text, while all brain regions associated with word processing, language processing, such as Broca's area, parts of your, just to the back of the prefrontal cortex, that activity reduces, and they write more sophisticated text. While with controls, it's the opposite, of course. If you're writing complex text, brain activity in text processing areas increase, but in trance states, it doesn't, it decreases. This is an experiment also done in 2013. I could go on, but these are two classes of experiment that if we were unbiased and neutral in face of the evidence, we would say, well, they seem very strongly to contradict physicalism and endorse idealism. But instead of that, we come up with all kinds of extremely implausible, inflationary, empirically unsubstantiated theoretical fantasies to hold on to our favorite worldview, despite nature telling us that that's not correct. So you see that the fight we are fighting here is a cultural fight. It's not as objective as people would like to think. We've known the objective answers for decades now. We just don't want to accept them.
I've always found that that finding about the psychedelics interesting. That was the first time I heard about that, because I've been very interested in what happens during psychedelic states, because I've had these experiences and they are the most profound experiences I've had. And it's really interesting that actually blood flow diminishes.
Yeah, your brain goes to sleep.
That makes no sense from a materialist standpoint, because you would expect that there would be increase in blood flow. I think that's really interesting. But
from an idealist perspective, it's easy to understand.
Yeah.
If normal brain activity is partly what the dissociative process looks like, if you reduce that, then you're reducing the dissociation. And when you reduce the dissociation, the richness of experience increases. You're less dissociated from your cognitive surroundings. So idealism makes good sense of that. Physicalism has a lot of trouble